Under normal circumstances, I suggest that this game will be a runaway for the Lions. Seattle's rushing defense is not good. They allow 5 yards a carry. They're allowing 50% on third and fourth down conversions. They are 28th in total offense. They're 25th in total defense. A far cry from the Eagles that we faced, who are first in total offense, or the Vikings, who are 18th in total offense, the two teams that the Lions have lost to. Again, under normal circumstances, Detroit should be able to feast on this defense. But unless I'm mistaken, Ryan, this is not normal circumstances. Without DeAndre Swift, without Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds is hobbled, TJ Hawkinson is hobbled, and the Lions are actually worse than Seattle when it comes to total defense because the Lions are 28th. So tell me why the Lions are still going to win this football game.
So the issues that Seattle has stopping the running game, we've already seen the Lions do pretty well with running when it's just Jamal Williams. Not that DeAndre Swift has missed a game, but when DeAndre Swift's not in, Jamal Williams is still able to do a pretty good job of, kind of leading the Lions rushing attack along with Craig Reynolds. The Lions have been still decent running the ball, and I mean, that's kind of where it stops for them. This spread, I think, started out like 6.5 for the Lions, and now it's 4.5, I think. So it's moving towards the Seahawks. The injuries obviously play a big part in that. And then with what the Lions kind of have going on against the Seahawks, if you're going to, even if Amon-Ra plays, which it sounds like he will, and he's hobbled, that's going to hurt the Lions in the passing game in general. So you don't really know, what to expect. I was very confident this is a game the Lions would win, and then they had all these injuries that you mentioned. Now I'm not so confident, but the Lions are playing at home, so that's that helps them, right? It's a West Coast team coming not necessarily all the way to the East Coast, but they are coming to Eastern time zone. So it's a 3-hour time difference for Seattle. Hopefully that can throw off some of the body clocks that their players have going on. And then I think we just have to keep in mind that Seattle's not a good team. This is not the Seattle of old where they got Russell Wilson and Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner. This is a really bad Seattle team. They're bringing in Geno Smith as their starting quarterback, and it's a defense that's not good. It's an offense that's not good. DK Metcalf, I think, is averaged like 45 yards receiving per game this year so far. So not really a tremendous threat on the offensive end so far. And if you're the Lions, you just hope that with the infrastructure that you have, even though you have some guys out and your defense was challenging anyway, but just with how you like to build your team with running the ball, and if Amon-Ra can be, 75 or 80% of his normal self, it should hopefully be enough to pull out this win.
Yeah, and, I was looking through in fantasy, looking for guys to pick up because one of my teams is a little bit decimated, and DJ Chark is there, and they're talking about an ankle injury for him as well, and so it's like, well, geez, who's Jared Goff going to throw to if not even Chark's out there? Like, I'm expecting Chark to play. I'm expecting Reynolds to play. Hopefully, Amon-Ra plays as well. But if they're not 100%, they're affecting how they're running their routes, how quickly they're getting off the block, how much separation they are getting from the defensive backs. And it affects how you play and move the ball. And so if our weapons are all banged up, it just worries me with the Lions' ability to move the ball. We have an offense that has that ability when healthy, and Seattle's defense seems to allow that, and so there will be some, but it's not what we thought when we looked at the schedule, when the season kicked off, and we're like, well, this should be a win. Seattle, exactly like you said, no Russell Wilson, and they haven't been good with Russell Wilson over the last few years anyway. And yes, Geno Smith is a semi-mobile quarterback. He can move around in the pocket. He can escape and get some yards. The Lions are going to have to keep him in the pocket to take advantage of that ability to stop the run. And if Geno escapes, obviously that hurts the Lions' defense. But it's not an all-world offense we're about to be facing with the Seattle Seahawks. And exactly like you said, with their big weapons through the air, Geno's not taking advantage of them the way that Russ would, so they're not cooking the same way with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf with Geno throwing the ball to them as they would be with Russell Wilson back there. So it's definitely possible. It's just all these injuries. It just seems like terrible luck to go along with everything else with the Lions to keep us from winning football games.
Yeah, and I know I say this, a lot if you followed Sports Carnage or even this podcast. But, like, when we look at the schedule and we see the Seahawks, and we're like, oh, that's a win. That's what the Seahawks are saying when they look at the schedule and see the Lions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it should be a tough game. You know, Kenneth Walker is back for the Seahawks, the old Michigan State running back. They do have Rashad Penny. They don't really have a good offensive line, but they have running backs who are skilled and who can hurt you. And they still do have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I know I gave you the stats on Metcalf earlier just because he hasn't been impressive yet. You know, it's only 3 games into the season, and we know this guy can still potentially be one of the best receivers in the NFL. And then with the Lions, you know, going up against Jeff Okudah or going, you know, against the secondary with Aurarie out, and now you're looking at a guy, you know, maybe Melifonwu or Chase Lucas or just somebody else to come in and step up with Tracy Walker as well. So it'll be tough for the Lions for sure to win, and there's reasons that you can look at the Seahawks, or that the Seahawks can look at and think that they have matchups that they can expose as well.
Yeah, and we'll get to those matchups in a second. Another stat and fact I wanted to throw out there for those who are looking for reasons to pick the Lions. Through 3 games so far this season, the Seahawks have scored 10 second-half points. They put nothing on the board against the Broncos in the second half of Week 1. They had 1 touchdown against the Niners in Week 2 and a field goal against Atlanta in Week 3. So it looks like at halftime, when the opposing team makes defensive adjustments, Seattle has not been able to take advantage of whatever they were able to do in the first half that was so successful, because it has not continued in the second half. So that's a bright spot for the Lions if that trend continues and Seattle is not scoring much at all after halftime. Obviously, that plays into the Lions ball game. So let's real quick, because there's been some I don't know if you want to call it beef, but there's been some slants thrown at each other between DK Metcalf and Jeff Okudah. Metcalf was talking about that Okudah is not a lockdown, that he's had help over the top with safeties, which is true. He's not making things up, but he kind of threw a little shade towards Jeff Okudah, and I was trying to figure out, between Lockett and Metcalf, who would you rather have Okudah on? I'm wondering now, with what DK said, is that going to force the issue where they're going to put Okudah on Metcalf to try and shut him up?
No, I think Okudah might just be on Metcalf because I think Metcalf is still better than TJ Lockett, but I don't think they're going to put him on because of, some vendetta or grudge or something. It's not going to change the way that they play their defense. So,
you got 2 different things there. Lockett, speedy, slot, all that. DK, big, strong, also fast. So I'm trying to figure out where, if we're putting Okudah on Metcalf, what are we doing with Lockett? Because Amani obviously last week got exposed. It did not, 6 penalties and all that. It didn't look good for him. And now you're going to have him on Lockett, and are you going to shade some help his way as well? These are the most dangerous weapons Seattle has, and we have to find a way to shut them down if the Lions are going to walk away 2-2.
Yeah, somebody's got to guard them. I understand you don't have so many options, but not guarding them is certainly not an option. So you just kind of hope and pray, right? You're going to put Okudah on one of them, whether he shadows the one that they feel is better the whole game, or whether he just kind of plays one side of the field and whatever receiver is on that side is the one who gets the Jeff Okudah matchup. I'm not exactly sure how they'll run it in that way, but it's just next man up. Football cliches. Whoever's next on the depth chart is going to have to be guarding one of these receivers who has proven to be good in the NFL, and then the Lions are just going to have to live with the results.
Hey, Ryan Griffin here. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Griffin and Bass. Be sure to give us your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to click the bell to receive the latest notifications from DSN, and subscribe for breaking news, community blogs, polls, contests, and other content